Now, Wooly, that's all well and good. But what about the other thing that Mikami said?
The real important
shit.
The real important news is that Mikami Satin was asked which does he think is better, the Genesis Aladdin or the Super Nintendo Aladdin.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Mikami worked on one of those.
He worked on the Super Nintendo Aladdin.
Ah, he did.
He did.
So naturally, the Super Nintendo one would be the better one in his opinion.
Right, that would be his answer, right?
So, Mikami being the humble man himself.
Well, let's get to his answer first,
why
shall
would
we?
he even?
Mikami says, if I didn't actually make the SNES game, I would probably buy the Genesis one.
Why?
Animation-wise, I think the Genesis version is better.
He's
the
totally
Genesis
right.
version has a sword, actually. I wanted to have a sword.
You know what? He's totally right,
That's
because
good
the
reasoning.
Genesis version of Aladdin, way better than the
It would be
Super Nintendo
cool if
version.
Aladdin ever used a sword, and he doesn't seem to mention gameplay, just animation, which is interesting.
That game was
It does
awesome.
play better.
It plays great.
It plays very inferior
Now,
compared
the
to Super
second
Nintendo.
part of this
What is the second part, Willie? Let's get to the second
It's
part.
a shame how wrong you are.
Let's get to the second part of the story.
The second
good
part
animation.
is that David Perry, the guy who designed the Genesis version, was around. They got in touch with him and asked him the same thing, and they said, hey, this is what Shinji had to say. And Perry responded with, I'm really biased as we made the original game and got Disney to deliver the animation, so I'd flip the quote. If I didn't actually make the Genesis version, I'd probably buy the SNES.
See, now here's the thing.
Absolutely.
Ironically, because Shinji Mikami is a better developer, he would know quality better where he sees it. Therefore, the Genesis version clearly
So the
superior.
guy that made the Genesis is a lying sack of shit.
Maybe.
But he managed to make.
I wouldn't say David Perry is a lying sack of shit. I just say maybe his taste isn't quite as good as Shinji Mikami.
Clearly not, because he made the Genesis Aladdin.
No.
And had the animation made.
Well,
from
David
the
Perry is the most humble motherfucker in the world.
He
You
is
can't put that on
not.
him.
Yeah.
He's one of the least humble
No, he's
people
super humble,
ever.
clearly.
So what was the you gave me a pretty good breakdown of both in terms of these are the strong points of each one.
Yeah,
Earlier.
and like Shinji Mikami said, the Genesis version has incredible animation because it wasn't made by the development team. It was made by Disney, so they had nothing to duck and do with it. And the Super Nintendo version is what Aladdin should be, which is platforming, not killing people with a sword.
You forget that the Genesis version has tons of platforming.
Yes, it's got lots of platforming, but that's not the main thing that you do.
You know what? You know what
So
I would say?
Aladdin is
I would say,
Prince of
you know
Persia,
what I
like it
say?
should
That
be.
Aladdin should have killed tons of people with a sword because the
probably.
Genesis version was so good.
He was slighted in
You're
the
not
movie.
even giving an argument.
As usual, the Genesis wins again.
Yeah,
High five,
sure.
Pat.
Near the end, you gotta do like a fucking.
Yeah.
You have to ride on carpet and fight Jafar. It's so awesome.
Which
oh my
you
God.
do in the Super Nintendo version.
Yeah, but
if
it's
you had
not as
played it.
good.
But you don't have a sword.
I wonder if you guys have ever played it, actually, because you seem
Super
to
Nintendo
not.
version? Oh yeah, I picked it up once and played it for about 10 minutes.
For the Super Nintendo version, you never owned because you didn't
Alright,
have
No,
Super
no, I
Alright,
played it. I played it.
alright,
I
here we
played it
go,
a couple
here we
years
go.
later and
Here
picked
we
it up
go.
and then immediately vomited because of how bad it was.
Split
Yeah, okay.
screen video.
Yeah, it's going to happen someday.
Do it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right?
And the only way to do it is that me and Liam will play the Super Nintendo version and you guys, play the Genesis
Right,
version.
okay, fair
because otherwise this argument will just get more intense.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm open to either being awesome.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Well, you gotta hold Matt's hand while he plays the greatest game of all time.
Exactly.
Aladdin
That
for the
wasn't
Genesis.
made by the development team because they
I
had
don't
nothing to
care
do
who
with the
made
animation.
it.
So we have
That's so stupid.
We have a
You're so stupid.
So you're saying Shinji Mikami is a bad game designer?
No, I just
No.
say he's not as good as
Oh,
David
okay.
Perry in making Aladdin games.
So I see whatever twisting way you can make this argument.
Pretty
in your
much,
favor.
because the
Okay.
game's way better on Genesis.
If you say so.
we
the
split the
Genesis
screen.
needs to have one thing to boast about.
We split the screen, and as we yell louder, the bar moves to both
Yeah, so,
sides.
you
You're just yelling the whole time.
So I think this argument really tinges on something tangible, and
What?
that's like we're never gonna get like passionate about this, about the
Never.
about the differences
You're
between
totally right.
the version of Call of Duty on PlayStation or
No.
Xbox or Bayonetta or anything, because the games are all the same now. But
Yeah.
remember back when each version of the game was a completely different fucking game?
despite
that was still a thing.
very similar hardware.
They would always say, like, dude, it's totally the same game. And you'd play it like, this is bullshit. This version's way worse, or this version's way better.
Yeah.
Like, did the Super Nintendo have X-Men games?
Yeah, it did.
Because if they did, they were nothing like the Genesis.
They were not like the Genesis games at all.
They were made by Capcom.
Didn't that happen to the Tasmanian Tiger game?
Totally,
Like a whole shitload?
Tasmanian Devil, you mean?
Yeah, Devil. I can't remember.
Tasmanian Devil games on Genesis were radical.
So, you know what? I
Totally
think,
different.
Pat, we can reach out the olive branch here and retrospect and just appreciate the entire Rocket Knight line for being awesome on all consoles.
In a different way each time.
Not recent ones.
What are you talking about?
The
What recent one?
Rocket Knight.
What recent
Oh,
one?
you mean
There was a recent one?
That dream we had where a new shitty Rocket Knight came out?
Yeah, that
Thank
I woke
God
up.
that didn't happen.
I
Hey
woke
man,
up.
I'm not the
It was-
biggest fan of Sparkster 1 and 2, but they're still solid.
Yep.
Unlike the dream we had of the new one. But Rocket Knight Adventure's greatest Genesis game
That was
is
an
so
awful
amazing.
night terror.
Goddamn it.
Never eat ice cream before bed.
No.
Never gonna take away Rocket Knight. Never gonna.
Yeah,
talk shit
that's
about that.
on a serious note. That was one of those games that I felt like this is really dumb. But when it came out and when it was terrible, the new Rocket Knight Adventures, I felt like I had grown up a little bit while playing it because I came to the conclusion, and you may have heard me say this about like Evangelion, is like this thing being bad can never take away the goodness with the old thing.
Right.
Like, I used to think that the new bad thing could ruin the old thing.
In fact, you said that last week.
And I did?
Yeah, when talking about Ava 3.33.
No, I said nothing 3.3 can undo how good the series is.
But you no longer care about Hideaki Anno.
No, I haven't cared about him since halfway through the series.
Right.
But it's the creators. Yeah, you can shit on them. They can become crappy. They can die. Whatever. But nothing can ever take away how good my memories were or how good an old thing is. And that shitty new Rocket Knight with wolves.
Wolves.
I don't want to talk about it.
It cannot take away how godlike Rocket Knight Adventures is.
Yeah, so let's just hope no horrible accidents happen to your memories.
Oh.
Recall.
Hey,
and you look physically hurt when I bring that up. Yeah, I think you feel as strongly about Sparkster as I do about Rocket Knight Adventures.
it's because there's I wanted it so hard.
Oh yeah, no,
Post Bionic Commando.
I wanted the good bits of like the rocket powers of Sparkster with the good level design of Rocket Knight Adventure, and what we got was the worst parts of both.
And what you should have seen me because I was playing the game and I was smiling. And then my smile never went away, but my grip on the controller tightened.
And then you died, and we had to resuscitate you.
So the real tragedy, remember, it took them 3 years to even get it greenlit by Konami, and when it did so badly, no more Rocket Knight for anyone ever.
Yeah, we'll see it again in 20 years.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Marketing says that possums don't do too well with the modern day crowd.
No.
You guys should make it into a hedgehog.
You'd hang from like a ledge, and he'd hang by his tail, and he would swing back and forth, and he had this big goofy grin on him. Oh, it was so good.
Anyway, quick note for those who
I
haven't
miss Rocket Knight.
Yeah,
I miss it.
no, we all do, man.